Welcome to the 1334 podcast. Today I'm joined by Matthew Overby from the Albany Amateur Radio Club. They are the longest run nonprofit in Albany, Georgia, founded in 1931. You are the current president, chairman, is that right?
I am the current president for the club, as well as on the board of directors.
Awesome. Well, I would love to get a little more information about the Albany Amateur Radio Club itself, who you guys are and what you do right now, and then we can dig into a little bit about what amateur radio is.
All right, so we're just a group of hams of all different ages, different backgrounds. It's a fairly kind of laid back kind of club. Really just love like general interest. Like you have some clubs that are a lot more like laid back, either going kind of like sharing around like, hobby stuff here and there. Then you have some that are a little bit more like prep oriented, contest oriented, different, like just like, I guess like the people that like I had started the club are the ones that for lack of a better term, run the club, but not like no one really runs the club. Like one like singular person runs the club.
Yes, community.
But just essentially, it's just whatever they feel like the overall like group interest is, and ours just happens to be just like a generalized thing of like different people have different interests, and we all kind of like get together and conglomerate each other with different stuff. And you guys have monthly meetings.
Correct.
Yes. On the fourth Tuesday of every month, we meet over at the Avalon Methodist Church on Gillianville. Awesome. They have a pavilion building in the far back of the property, and that's where we meet every month.
What are some of the things that the club actually does? I know you guys volunteer for like race coordination and stuff like that.
Yeah, correct. So our club, we every year around March or April, we volunteer our time to provide communications for the I think it's the Snickers Marathon.
Yeah.
I've been a part of that for the last I want to say 3 or 4 years. I've been a part of that, and every time it's a cool way to be able to like one time, like for one time out of the year, you'll want to, say if you get like a new radio or a specific setup that you want to, kind of like test out in a field type of scenario, that is the perfect time. That's one instance where it's a perfect time to kind of test that out and see how it works for you in a, like a 3 to 4 hour window.
Yeah. So what's so important about using radio for that event in particular, and other races and other things you guys put on? Is it like cellular traffic clogging up, or what is it exactly?
In my personal opinion, I can't give you like an objective answer to that. To me, it's just one, like to me it's just like one less thing that the organizers of the event and stuff. That's like one less thing that they specifically have to worry about. If there's a group that is solely objective is like, provide the communications and relay those communications to, the people that are running it or whoever like the coordinator is. They've got a lot of stuff that they're doing on top of that, and that's just one less thing that they have to worry about, and we can take the load off of that for them.
That's awesome. And I know it's a Boston qualifying race, so it's
correct.
A pretty large event. I know some people come from out of town to run it, so I think it's really cool that we have a local group that's here to facilitate the communications. Can you talk a little bit about what amateur radio is exactly, about how it kind of functions, and how does it work without any cell towers or anything?
Okay, yeah. So in the very basic explanation, you have a radio connected some way to an antenna, and you press a button, and all that energy is being sent over the air and somebody else, regardless of like where they're at, they might be next door, they might be across town, across the country, across the world. Somebody else who is tuned in on that frequency that you're on potentially is going to be able to hear you, and you'll be able to talk to one another. Just as a basic explanation of it, that's in general what it is. Without trying to get too deep into the weeds of like the technical side of it, or like what I consider like the nerdy side of it, which I would really like to get into the nerdy side, but I'm not going to dive into too much into it. But ham radio, we have specific frequency allocations that are allotted to us by the FCC for us in the U.S. All different services have certain frequencies that are allocated to them by the FCC. Film and broadcast, amateur radio, bunch of like different ways. Like each of them have a different allocation, and depending on the frequency band that you choose, ultimately on top of how atmospheric conditions are and propagation, if conditions are very good, then you can have if you're working on lower frequencies or high frequency HF, you can talk to people across the world.
Yeah.
If conditions are good in terms of like localized communication, which is in the VHF or UHF, very high frequency and ultra high frequency, you have a fairly good chance to be able to talk to people locally around you. But if conditions are just right, you do have potentially to go a little further than that, like maybe like talk to somebody across the state or something that it's not usually you're not usually able to do on a quote unquote normal day.
Yeah. So they're naturally occurring wavelengths that you can just tap into essentially, right?
Correct. Yes.
So how do I know that Albany itself has a repeater, and a lot of different counties around Georgia and the state and the country itself have repeaters set up, and some of them have like repeater chains. Like I know there's one in California that goes from like the bottom of California to the top. So there's repeater chains set up that are all on the same frequency and offset and all that. Could you talk a little bit about why having repeater setup is so important, and why the Albany Amateur Radio Club having their own repeater setup for us is such an important aspect of what you guys do?
Yeah, for sure. Talk a little bit, about what you were talking about, the chain repeater systems. They're like depending on where in the country, like there are a lot of places that have that kind of linked system going. Florida is a perfect example, and I'll give you an example to the latter question that you were asking. The state of Florida, all the way from Tallahassee all the way down to the south, they have repeaters that are linked to one another throughout the state, because Florida is very prone to hurricanes.
Yeah,
and very important in that kind of instance. If there's a hurricane that's going to be coming by and communications happen to be wiped out in a certain area of Florida, you potentially, if you have the infrastructure in terms of like backup power, you can relay that information to other hams that are listening in on that link system.
Yeah.
They could give you that, you can send information, like be able to like relay information to them. They might be able to relay information to you if you don't know like what happened. Potentially be able to like say, hey, I might need, we might need supply, like our area might need supplies for emergency supplies, like water, food, like just depending on how severe that is. They can easily relay that information back and form a connection to be able to get that stuff sent out to them.
That's awesome.
As far as you're asking about the importance of repeaters.
Yeah, and Albany itself.
Yeah. So repeaters in general, they make the local communication. They just make it easier. Because if you ever have tried to talk radio to radio, or what we call simplex, on a handheld radio, to somebody that's across town, you know that it can be quite difficult if you're just using like the little like stock antenna.
Yeah.
Or if you're using it, or if just in general, if you're using an antenna that is not elevated up in the air, very good, decent height. So what a repeater essentially does is you have essentially a bare bones explanation is you have a radio that's at a specific area. Usually it's at a radio station, like a tower site, and you have an antenna that's 100, 200, 300, 400 feet up, set to a specific frequency. You tune your radio to that. You talk on it. That is going to hear your frequency, and it's going to repeat that over a vaster area, so other people can hear you in a further.
Similar to a cell tower, essentially, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yep. That's awesome.
And as far as like like the importance of it, like just in that to be able to be heard out in like further areas where the repeater can get out for. Now, as important as like repeater systems potentially are, the one big fallback to that is some of them are connected to backup power, some of them are not. So in that kind of sense, repeaters, while they're very good, they may not be as reliable.
Yeah.
So in that kind of sense, like that's why as ham radio operators, it's important to be able to like test out our limits to what we can do with simplex as much as possible.
So speaking on that, I know that you're connected with another nonprofit called the Radio Relief Incorporated. So could you talk a little bit about what Radio Relief is and what you guys do as far as being prepared for emergency situations?
Sure. So Radio Relief Incorporated was founded brainchild of Joseph McKinnon, call sign WE4LAW, and he just saw a need for the Southwest Georgia area in that in no way am I like talking down or talking badly or thinking illy of like any other like organizations or groups within amateur radio. They all have their purpose and they all do it very well. It's just for some reason there's a little bit of a disconnect or a lack of communication with certain groups and the southwest area, but just in the south area in general. Could be on their end, could be a bit of on our ends too, but regardless, like no fault trying to be thrown around or anything. But the fact of the matter is like there is some kind of disconnect, and Radio Relief is attempting to kind of fill that void for the southwest area, potentially around the entire southern Georgia area. And what we want to do is provide the equipment to amateur groups. For instance, like we have an organization, Amateur Radio Emergency Services, or just acronym for ARES, that if they have a good working relationship with their local emergency management, we can provide equipment for the amateur radio operators to be able to work on a deployment if needed.
Yeah. And
so far, I believe Joseph had said that we have about 8 radios set up, and we're each filling up in like go boxes, everything self-contained, radio, battery, antenna, cabling, like power connections and everything, all in theory, all of that, be able to just have everything ready, just flip of a switch, everything's on, connect the antenna, boom, you're good to go. You can go ahead and do your deployment. Go get to work.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, how can people get connected with you and the Albany Amateur Radio Club?
So we do have a website, w4mm.com. On there, we have on some part of the website, There's information for like date, time, and location for our meetings. I believe earlier I gave it Avalon Methodist Church, but I think it's like the second week, I believe, of every month. That information is put on the website. Date, time, location, address, and everything. So w4mm.com for that information. Or if you have the wherewithal, you can look through the club roster and see if you may know somebody that is a part of the club, and you may have their contact information, be able to contact them there. Also on there, it does provide the club officers, president, secretary, treasurer, board of directors, and I believe contact information for all of those are listed as well if you want to get in contact with any of them.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time.
Blake, thank you very much, man.